If you've been waiting for a tactical slash milsim game that actually delivers like I have, you've probably been extremely frustrated. But I think the answer may be on the way. Now, I rarely these days have faith in games in development, but the one I'm going to talk about, Bellum, is an exception. That said, I do have some general concerns that make me cautiously optimistic that I'll talk about at the end. The lead developer, Karmakut, is maybe the most passionate advocate for authentic milsim and/or tactical gaming, and this game is his baby. We're going to take a look at some of the features and gameplay showcased in the Bellum devlog, which was just released today. First up, I want to talk about the authenticity, and I can already tell that this is where this game is going to shine. We have very realistic animations here. Just look at this one where we're clearing and reloading the saw or Mark 46, right? You got the bolt lock to the rear. We're checking the feed mechanism, checking the feed tray, checking the magazine well for links, and attaching that new box. Judging by the other animations, it looks like that attention to detail will shine through, and I am psyched about that. I would expect no less from Karmakut and his team. Now let's talk about the weapons firing. We do know based on this devlog that they worked with experienced shooters to develop realistic recoil patterns for the weapons. Their aim was to create a pattern where your accuracy clearly degrades in a realistic way, but which is not so severe that you can't control it. And that's important, but it's great to hear that they're trying to make sure that it's still a satisfying experience for the player, unlike certain other games where the recoil gets out of control as a balance mechanic. Not only that, but the effects, although still a work in progress, are absolutely on point. We got realistic looking grenade explosions, environmental dust kick-up due to the overpressure from firing the weapons, etc. It does look like we get a little bit of a suppression effect as well. Now in its current state, it doesn't appear to be too extreme, but it still looks like it's enough to give you an incentive to keep your head down. The audio is another area where I think the weapons firing is going to shine. They have an indoor reverb system which impacts the sound of your weapon as well as your verbal communication. And I think the gunshots in the distance actually sound very realistic. They give you a pretty clear idea of the general distance and direction, and they sound like what it really sounds like for these gunshots to be happening at those distances.
Roger that, just keep moving. Hey, we're taking second contact to the northwest.
Now these features are great because they show a commitment to the immersion, but what I really want to talk about are the teamwork and planning mechanics, because I think that is what's going to set this game apart from other games like Squad. Now, one of the biggest things that tactical games like Squad have failed at is making a coherent, easily accessible planning tool. Now, Bellum is going to solve this by giving us a legit ATAC, or Android Team Awareness Kit. This is something that's widely used by US forces to plan, communicate, and track friendly positions. Giving us an ATAC is maybe the best move Karmakut and the Bellum team could have gone with, because it does two things. One, it maintains immersion by minimizing the amount of information we get in a heads-up display format. Not only that, but second, it gives us a robust tool that's going to let us easily execute all the planning and team coordination tasks that we want, right? We'll be able to track friendly unit positions on there. We'll be able to mark enemy positions, and I assume that we're going to be able to add tactical graphics to mark out like our routes, our ORPs, support by fire positions, etc. On top of that, the Bellum developers plan on adding drones and electronic warfare systems to the game, and the ATAC provides us a single platform where we can integrate and access all of those systems. So this was a fantastic move on their part to give us that immersion and all the tools that we need. Now let's talk a little bit about the teamwork system that we have here. Bellum's focus is going to be on organized small unit tactics at the squad and platoon level. In order to achieve this, we're going to get, the standard things like radio communications, proximity communications, things like that, right? But I also like that they chose to create a rigid unit slot system, because that slot system is going to standardize the platoon's organization and loadouts, right? So everybody knows what they're doing and what equipment they're going to have. If you're a machine gunner, you're a machine gunner. If you're a rifleman, you're a rifleman. If you're a team leader, you're a team leader. And your loadout is going to reflect that. Now, I believe they'll be adding some kit customization as the game develops, but it seems like they're trying to minimize the amount of tactical Barbie that people can play. And I think that's amazing. There is nothing more frustrating, as any Arma 3 player will attest to. There's nothing more frustrating than gathering a squad to platoon-sized group of guys together, only to have some jabroni take like 35 minutes customizing his kit while everybody else stands around. Now, in terms of level design. We only know so much at this point, but I like what we know. First map is 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers, so we'll certainly have room for maneuvering our forces to the decisive point. The other thing that I really like is that they've been very intentional in creating micro-terrain that players can use to surreptitiously move into position and or use to get cover during a firefight. Now, I do have some questions about the map design, and I'm curious to learn more. Specifically about map balance. Is the mission to raid a single point, or are we working on some area of operations that we're patrolling through in a movement to contact, whatever? If it's to one point, right, how balanced is the map between the assault force and the defenders? In other words, does one force have a clear advantage over the other? How balanced are the different approaches to that objective? How much opportunity is there for the assault force to use concealment in each of those different approaches? There is nothing worse than a PvP game where one side just smashes the other every match due to an unbalanced map design. Now, I am confident that Karmakut and his team have taken this into consideration. I just look forward to getting to try it out and see for myself. But my biggest question is, what is the gameplay loop actually like? How many types of missions are there? What's going to constitute victory? Are we talking about tickets, capturing points, eliminating the other team, etc.? Is this going to be based on a 1 life per round model the way that Counter-Strike was? If so, that's going to have a dramatic impact on the way people approach the gameplay. Now, the flip side of that, though, is that it will make the medical system even more meaningful. So there are pros and cons to that. Now, if there are opportunities for respawn, how are they incorporated? Are we doing waves? Are we doing individual respawns? Between those two, I personally hope that it's waves, because the number one gameplay mechanic that, for me, ruins the squad and reforger experience is that when you die, you respawn alone and halfway across the planet. So whatever team cohesion and plan you had is immediately out the window once you start taking a couple casualties. So if they do organized respawns in like waves or something like that, it will help at least allow units to maintain some form of integrity and be able to still accomplish their mission without it devolving into chaos. I also would like to know what kind of supporting assets we'll have available. He mentioned in the devlog that we're going to have some kind of electronic warfare assets. We'll have drones where we'll have feeds integrated into the ATAC, and that's awesome. But I'm wondering about other stuff too, because in reality, if 2 platoon-sized forces from modern militaries started duking it out, they're going to bring to bear many support assets like mortars, anti-armor weaponry, smoke screens, etc. Now, I know they're not going to add anything which throws the game balance too far out of whack, but I do hope there's some integration of indirect fires, giving each side like a 60mm mortar team with HE and smoke rounds would be an incredible force multiplier. It'll give some obscuration to their assault force as they're crossing an open area. The HE rounds will help pin the enemy in position, help the friendlies break contact, whatever. There's a lot of versatile uses for them, and they would likely not throw the game balance off too much. At the end of the day, the big developers continue to give us nonsense like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Delta Force, etc. The indie developers keep failing to deliver on a high-quality game that actually makes it out of early release hell. But Karmakut knows this, and this game seems to be a labor of love that's meant to give the tactical community a game which delivers on what we actually want. On top of that, he's an extremely accomplished milsim gamer with thousands of hours leading squad and platoon level operations in games like Arma 3. I've played a handful of times with his milsim unit, and I was super impressed at his level of knowledge when it came to conducting small unit raids and ambushes. If there's anyone in the space I would trust to put together a milsim game for the community, it's him. I'll keep you guys updated as we get more information on Bellum, and I am stoked.